Welcome to the Inti Hub's 10x webinar. My name is Novel Cahyadi. I'm the CEO and founder of Inti Hub, and I will be your webinar host today. So 10x webinar is a platform where we will have a dialogues about the future, innovation, emerging technologies, exponential transformation, as well as future-proof leadership. Allow me to talk a little bit about what Inti Hub is doing. We are an award-winning innovation and exponential transformation consulting agency based in Dubai and Europe. What we do is basically helping our clients, leaders, and organizations to navigate through innovation towards their exponential business growth. So if you have an intention to kickstart innovation within your organizations or to use innovation to drive your business growth, you can simply talk to us. And you can check out our website for our services and programs. So let me begin by sharing with you one of my favorite quotes on leadership from the legendary Jack Welch. He said that before you are a leader, success is all about growing yourself. When you become a leader, success is all about growing others. The great and the late Jack Welch. He was the chairman and the CEO of GE, right? So for those of us for all of us who are seeking to build our leadership skills, apparently there's no shortage of places or people that we can turn to for leadership advice. So you can always look at books, you can always turn left and right. There are people around you, your bosses, your managers, your parents, right? And the internet, and the news. And sometimes it can be quite overwhelming. Yet, no one had prepared any leaders for the crisis that we are currently in. A crisis where any pre-existing course of action has to be put on hold or reset. A crisis that can naturally lead anyone to feel frustrated, annoyed, overwhelmed, afraid, concerned about themselves and others, and unsure of what to do. So therefore, to me personally right now, talking about leadership in this COVID-19 crisis has become an interesting subject, because this is the best test of time of determining who are the true great leaders and what do they do in this kind of crisis. And during this COVID-19 crisis, we've seen many examples of inspiring actions taken by leaders like CEOs, nation leaders, and the companies in support of their people and employees. Recently, I've read an article from Harvard Business Review. It says that the leaders currently share a common key priority, which is the safety and well-being for their people. But as we've come to recognize that this crisis will last more than a few short weeks, right? So it's been going on for 3 months, even more. Now we are defining the approach for the long haul. So it's absolutely necessary to discuss and to talk about the preparation for the leaders to know what is next after the COVID-19. And historically speaking, visionary leaders like Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, even Nelson Mandela, they didn't simply react to the most imminent threats that were confronting them. They always looked beyond the dark horizon. They guided their people, and they themselves were guided by their vision for a better future after those challenges had been overcome. So in this webinar, we will discuss about the transformation from visionary realist to grounded futurist leadership in the post-COVID-19 era. And it is actually my great pleasure and my great honor to welcome Mas Budiman Sudjatmiko. Mas Budiman, welcome.
Hi, Novel. Thank you for inviting me to join
the accepting my
invitation.
Thank you for accepting my invitation, first of all, to share your stories. So I call him Mas Budiman Sudjatmiko. For those who are not from Indonesia, Mas is like a big brother. So let me introduce you, first of all. Budiman Sudjatmiko is a politician and an activist who founded and now chair the Innovator 4.0 Indonesia, or I4ID. I4ID is a social and technological movement that connects the experts and brains in technology and innovation to connect them with the rural communities to co-create innovative solutions using emerging technologies in order to solve social challenges facing the rural communities. His purpose is to transform the rural areas in Indonesia to become the centers and the foundation of the nation's economic growth. He's also a former member of parliament in Indonesia for 10 years, during which he played a pivotal role in passing the laws for the rural communities. So Mas Budiman studied economics and gained 2 master's degrees, both in international relations from University of London School of Oriental and African Studies at Clare Hall, Cambridge. Here we go, Mas Budiman, off to you.
Okay, thank you, Mas Novel, for inviting me for this in this precious moment event organized by you, and also good evening or good afternoon or good morning for everybody who participates in this webinar series organized by Novel Cahyadi. Okay, first of all, I'd like to say that we are now in the process of reinventing ourselves as a nation, as a human being, and also as a species. Because you know that I think everybody talk about new normal, but I prefer to call it the new norms. The new norms that actually already been the foundation already been laid down by the process in almost 10 years when the whole world, human being, entering the process of the stages of the Industrial Revolution, 4.0 Industrial Revolutions. As you know that the 4.0 Industrial Revolution, preceded by the 3.0 Industrial Revolution, actually taking people in the new era where each individual now have a chance and access to get into the process of what I call social upscaling. Social upscaling is actually the process that facilitated by the digital and information technology that enable one individual to have to multiply their persona, to multiply their appearances, and to multiply infinite identities in the digital eras or in the cyberspace. So the process of get involved in this upscaling, social upscaling, actually give us warning that the existing institutions, be it social, political, economical, cultural, even spiritual, no longer enough and sufficient to accommodate or to channel the multiple expressions by each individual, by each citizens. So, for example, I'm as a just ordinary citizens by having multiple characters and multiple identities in the YouTube, in Twitter, Facebook. Actually, I can play many roles, multiple roles that maybe in the daily basis role, I can do that. I can't do that. Because by having multiple characters or identities, actually I can play many roles and multiple roles in giving my opinions in the political issues or economic issue. So, for example, maybe the existing social institution for Indonesia, for example, we have around 270 million citizens. Yeah, the existing and analog institutions only cope and accommodate the needs of the 270 million people with their specific and particular needs. But during the digital era, digital revolution, the existing system have to cope and to accommodate multiple identities of 270 million people. So, by having digital identity through our social media platforms, we can make and influence the course of history. Maybe for the time being, just the course of story, particular and individual story. But when reaching the critical mass, by having multiple identity in multiple platforms, you can create the historical moment by accumulating the stories created by each individual identity. So this is the paradox, not paradox. Actually, this is the paradox of the digital era that enable and allowing people to have multiple identities. But now, when all of human being or human species suffering from the COVID pandemic, not only each individual have the multiple identity in the social platform, social media platform through social upscaling process, but also each individual also now we have to go through the process, what I call as the biological downscaling process. So each individuals, our behavior, our daily activities, our habits in eating food or in interacting with other people cannot escape from the necessity to check and to make a surveillance on our activities that give impact, heavy impact to our health system, our biological body system. And this is very important because each individual behavior that can be decomposed into our biological identity, downsizing into our molecules, our neural activities, our neuron, our genetic, genetic data, actually give influence also to our behavior as individuals and in its turn affecting and impactful to our social identity in multiple social media platforms. So this is the complexity that we are now facing as a human being, not only as a nation, as a human being. That's why a lot of existing ideas in politics, in culture, in education, in healthcare cannot cope with the situation. But on the other hand, even though the platform or the development of digital and biological technology allowing people to have multiple identity extensively or intensively, socially or biologically, upsizing or downsizing, upscaling or downscaling, a lot of people still, mostly at the grassroots level, they have no luxury to optimize this opportunity that already been given, by the system. So I think we are now facing the political problems or dilemma. How can people at large, society at large, in their magnitude, also can optimize these facilities, the development of digital and biological technology for their own well-being, for the people well-being, for people intelligence, social intelligence, for people's longevity maybe, or for people, for people welfare as our goal as a nation, as a human being. So the political leadership that we need in the new norms era or new normal era after the COVID-19 is actually the political leadership that can make a bridge between society at large in their entirety themselves is actually very, very valuable for building the new civilization or building the new paradigm, but at the same time they have no clue on how to optimize and maximize the existing technology. On the other hand, there are some people that with their background, economic, social, educational background, allowing them or facilitating them to monitor, to make a surveillance of the people's life, society life at large. So I think this is the dilemma, the paradox of the political leadership that we need. Okay, maybe in the 10 years ago, we still praise for Obama, for Lula da Silva, or some visionary leaders from developed as well as from developing countries who came up with the idea of how to distribute welfare and knowledge to the people with their visionary realist ideas. But I think that's not enough. Because as a visionaries leaders, the best that they can only do is actually just only maximizing and optimizing the existing institutions that legally or constitutionally is in their respective countries, and they try to optimize and maximize those existing institutions for the benefit of people. That's good. That's progressive. That's very cool. But I think the point is, the best that those visionary leaders can do is just to keep the people's life not going down under the poverty line. But the problem now is, I think we have opportunity, chance, as well as challenges that we cannot just give the people the basic minimum requirement for them to live as a citizen, as the respective citizen. But also we have to give them and give them chance, and also create the atmosphere, conducive atmosphere for those people to develop their personality, to develop their community. Because I think in this new norms, the vitality or the maxim of the community is very, very influential in creating the society, in creating the healthy individuals to live as a respected citizens. So this is the problem that we have to tackle. Most of us, as a human being, as a learners, as a citizen, I think we already entering the stage of what I call is database truth era. Not only the truth era based on the constitutions or the legal or positive law that being implemented in respective countries, and afterwards we are suffering, particularly since 2016 up to 2019, what many people say the post-truth era, that violating the truth era based on the constitution of those countries. But now we are forced to fight to live in the new era, that we cannot live without database truth. This is very important. By having a database truth as our new norms, I think this is the good chance for the visionary leaders to transform themselves, not only optimizing and maximizing the existing institutions, but to transform the analog institutions in our countries, and creating the new, not only new actors, but also new instruments. Not only new instruments, but also the new paradigms, what we call new normals or new norms, in tackling the issue and tackling the problems that we are facing now, be it in the ecological system, or societal system, economical system, cultural system, etc., etc., etc. Now, the technology itself, I think, give us the chance, give us the opportunities to acquiring the knowledge, the new paradigm for tackling the issues. But the problem, I think, not many people have the access. That's why this is the ecosystem that we are trying to create in Indonesia. Hopefully, people in other countries as well can create the same ecosystem in your countries. How to combine between brain power with community power? Because in the world we have only two models that preceded before us. The first is the innovation that driven by the corporations, championed mostly by the United States, for example. Corporation-driven innovation, corporation-driven technological innovation. On the other hand, there's a challenge from the China, for example, that rely on the state strength, state apparatus that create what I call state-driven technological innovations. From my point of view, I think it is not enough. We have to propose, we have to champion the third approach, championed by the down-to-earth leadership, championed by grounded leaders, down-to-earth leaders, to give the third proposal, the third agenda. That is what I call community-driven technological innovation, community-driven societal innovation as well. By inviting people down to grassroots level, down to the community level, to have say through at least three expertise that we can reap from the body of knowledge. First is the people that dedicated themselves to make society smart. For example, cultural activists, progressive politicians, visionary educators, progressive sociopreneurs. Those are the people that I call the people who want to our society smart, who want to make our society smart. On the other hand, we need the people, the brain power, that representing those who want to make our technological tools smart. AI expert, blockchain expert, computer scientists, quantum technologies, 3D printers, 3D printing expert or makers, etc., etc. And also as well as the expertise of those people who want to make our biological body smart. Neurobiologists, neuroscientists, gene editors, etc. So the expertise from three groups, those who want to make our society smart, those who want to make our technological tools smart, and those who want to make our biological body smart, they have to make, they have to open the communication with the community. And thanks to in Indonesia, we have now village law that enable state to give and to distribute village fund for the villages. So I think this is a good starting point for us in Indonesia. By having money, by having cash, its communities or its villages in Indonesia, actually we have the good starting point to develop and to create the smart village as component to build the smart society or the smart nation or the smart republic Indonesia. And by having this law, by having this regulation, I think the hardest part to make transformation, which is at the societal level, I think to some extent we are already successful. To some extent, that's the hardest part, because all the innovation, all the societal transformation, the hardest part actually mainly is lie on the societal level, be it because due to the political reasons, factors, economical factors, cultural factors. To some extent, in Indonesia, we already overcome this issue, overcome these obstacles. So the problem is in our country, for example, the new kind of leadership, grounded futurist leadership, actually, they already have their own grassroots stronghold basis among the communities. The point is how to open access to the brain power represented by those who the people that want to make our technological too smart, or the people who want to make our biological body smart. By combining between brain power and community power, we can create, we can propose. This is the new kind of leadership, the new norms era, by influencing policy-making process, by influencing law-making process in the legislative bodies and policy-making process in the executive branch of the governance. For example, from the top level at the national level down to municipal level. I think this is the resultant of the combination between brain power and community power, between the people who have the sovereignty and the people who have knowledge, science. That's why I think the credo of the new kind of leadership, or the grounded futurist leadership, or down to earth futurist leadership, is how to combine between the multiplication process and distribution process. The multiplication of knowledge and wealth through the science technology, and the distribution of knowledge and wealth through science and technology as well. So by combining science, technology, and social network, by combining science and technology with community, I think this is from my point of view, is the recipe to answer what makes Yuval Noah Harari restless about the birth or the birth of the what he called useless class, the irrelevant people. I don't think that we will have the useless class or irrelevant people as long as we can combine between brain power and community power and creating new kind of leadership, or down to earth futurist leadership. As long as we can set up or create this new paradigm. So visionary realist leadership is not enough, because I believe the good intention out of the old paradigm can be toxic in this new norms era. You know that many old ideologies, many secular teachings, or as well as religious teachings that came out of the pre-Renaissance era cannot cope the new development post-Renaissance era. All the good intention religious as well as secular teaching pre 1.0 industrial revolution era, empowered by the steam engine, empowered by steam technology, cannot cope with the 2.0 industrial era, when people acknowledge the electricity technology. Also, the good intention secular as well as religious teaching pra 3.0 revolution, industrial revolution era cannot cope, cannot catch the dynamic of the digital driven 3.0 industrial revolution era. As well as now, we are driven by the biological technology, narrow biological technology in 4.0 industrial revolutions. The maximum or the strength of the digital technology is not enough, not sufficient. The process, the upscaling, the social upscaling process by each individual is not enough. We have to enter the era that we have to go through what I call biological downscaling process, when each individuals decompose into their neural activities, genomic data, epigenetic, the expression of gene of each individuals. So this technology allowing us to detect our well-being, to detect the threat for our well-being, our health, biological health system, and also as well as societal at the health system at the social level. So the immunity, the vulnerability of each individuals now can be detected by the novel biological technology in this current stage. in our epoch, in our civilization. So this is much more complex, not complicated, much more complex. I mean, we can elaborate it, we can elaborate it, we can reduce it into each nano ingredients and nano compositions of our societal system and as well as our biological system. So I think scientific leadership in the political spectrum, in the political field, as well as in the economic field, cultural field, I think is the order of the day. And then people said, so what sort of societal system, social system, political and economic system that can fit to these new norms? I propose that we have to welcome the ecological transhumanist human being that can cope with the technology, they can cope with the dynamic or the problem in the ecological sectors. So by combining between technology and ecology, we can create the society, its individuals that have the awareness, ecological awareness, as well as social awareness to create, to make a more collaborative, more cooperative society instead of competitive, instead of exploitative and oppressive society. I think that's why many public figures, just like Pope Francis, people from World Economic Forum, and some people in Spain, in Finland now, trying to adopt the proposal of the universal basic income as the proposal to give the people very minimum requirements to live as a human being. I think that's good idea. That's very noble ideas. But I think it's not enough for the next 10 years, next 20 years. What we need is actually not only basic income, but also basic assets. So not only capital, UBI is the intersection between capital and private, but also space, natural resource, infrastructure, capital, data, know-how, communities, and power. Those assets for human being. Yeah. To live as the proper human beings. So UBI as an intersection between capital and private is actually just only the first step for us to create our future to work for us, for human being. But people cannot live just only by having cash, but also healthy space, natural resources that not destructive or destroying our survival. So, as well as infrastructure, capital, of course, data. Yes, data, the democratization of data through blockchain, for example. When the data democratized, transparent, traceable, helped by the communities. But even now, the technology, digital technology, enable each individual not only become the producer of the data, but also as the AI himself, as the AI, as the artificial intelligence, personalized artificial intelligence, personalized server, not only server distributed among the communities, but server distributed among individuals through the Internet of Me technology. Some universities in UK now trying to create this technology, the network and the sensors, the sensors power to enable each individuals as the personal server. So not only democratizing the data through blockchain to the communities, but down to its individuals. So this is the advancement of technology that we have to welcome and given us the new perspective, the new assets. I think in the coming revolution, industrial revolution, 4.0 industrial revolution, and also during the pandemic, we have to think about it so we can make sure that everybody is invited in the new norms era. So no one left behind in the runway. So we have to ready for that. I think that's my presentation, Mas Novel.
Well, thank you so much, Mas Budiman. That's very insightful. So one question that I have here, you mentioned about the brain power and community power, the combination of all this. Do you have any example of any country or organizations that have been successfully combining these two, the brain power and community power?
Yeah, there are some, but for example, China, but this is state-driven innovation, combining power, brain power and community power. China, for example, but it's state-driven. But I don't think this is the best proposal for our new norms era. Not the proposal. This is not fit for our new norm eras.
That's an exceptional case,
right?
Yeah.
So as far as I know, the community-driven innovation is not so much the mainstream agenda, but at least I've heard that around 23 countries in the world, mostly in developing countries, want to copy our law, village law, they want to apply in their own countries. I've heard about it, and even I were invited to East Timor, and I talked with one of the advisor of the president of the Philippines, not the existing one, the previous one, to learn about this village law. And even I ever talk and make discussion with Philip van Parijs. Philip van Parijs is the economist from the Leuven Catholic University, the one that strongly promoting and campaigning for UBI. He's interested in this village law scheme. When I talked to him in University of Indonesia a couple of months ago, I think we have to try. He said so to me, and I told him that okay, we have to try also the UBI scheme that you propose or you propose in some international forum. So yeah, this is not yet the mainstream agenda in the world, but I think the new norm needs this new approach. Yeah, more participatory, more democratic, more transparent, more traceable. I think yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Mas. We have one question from Adventinus Lambut. In your opinion, what is the most important action or reaction that should be taken by the educational institutions, especially at the university level, in order to create the futurist visionary leaders? It would be great if you put it into perspective in the emerging countries like Indonesia.
Yeah, yes, I'm not expert of the education, but as far as I know, I'm very concerned with the schematic education, the very schematic and rigid division of science in the university level. I think we have to try, not as a trial and error, but I think some very famous university already, even in the United States, for example, or even in UK, it enables people, or enables students to have a major and minor program. Also in, for example, in Oxford, in Cambridge, natural science combining between physics, chemistry, math, biology, and the material science. Also in Oxford, computer with philosophy or physics with philosophy at the undergraduate level. I think we have to make a cross disciplinary approach for the students now at the moment, because what we need is actually at least there are some requirements for the students in Indonesia, not only at the university level. I think the imaginative power of the students and transferable skills, imaginative power, and then computational thinking and analytical thinking, and transferable skills. That's very important for the students, not only at the university level, but also in the primary level or high school level. So imaginative power, computational, analytical, and mathematical thinking, and the transferable skills. That's very important. That's very important because knowing something in this social media or digital technology era is not enough. Yeah. But what do we need is not referential individuals, the people who have many reference or knowledgeable. But the most important thing is to have analytical people, analytical individuals, and then by having transferable skills, they can apply the analytical thing. They can apply the imaginative power and analytical thinking with the transferable skills that can be applied to other areas. So I think this is very important because this is the very typical of this new norm era or 4.0 era is actually the industrial sectors, economic sector is very volatile, very volatile. But the barrier entry is low. So compared with the previous era, yeah, the industrial sectors is quite fixed, but the barrier entry is high. On the other hand, current era, I think we look at the reality. We see the reality that the industrial sector, our industrial sector is very volatile, but the barrier entry is quite low. So more open, more participatory, more transparent, so everybody is invited, but you end up jump or landed into very volatile ground. So this is the challenge. Yes.
Thank you, Mas. We have question from. Oh, by the way, if you have any questions, please type them along on the Q&A. And we have one question from Gordon Mangasi. How does it change the pattern? How do we change the pattern of human behavior if technological change is not matched with changes in human behaviors?
Okay, this question reminds me of the saying by Leonardo da Vinci: the highest sophistication is in the simplicity. The question is simple and very sophisticated as well. Okay. Yes. How we can change? I think I already answered it. Yeah. Encourage people to be more imaginative. To be more imaginative, as well as computational and mathematical. I think the tech giants in the world, in United States, in China, in Europe, for example, in Dubai as well, hopefully, is, I think, the innovation, the capability, the capacity of people to cope with the change, actually is the capacity to imagine, not only to imagine the new tools to tackle the old problems, but also to imagine the new problems. I think it's very important. Most of us give the title as innovators mostly just only for the people that creating or imagining or creating the new tools to tackle the old problems. I think this is not enough. Just like this is just like visionary realist leaders, okay?
Right.
Inventing the new tools to tackle the old problems. But people like Elon Musk, for example, is not only inventing the new tools to tackle the old problems, but also imagining the new problems. Yeah, imagining the new problems, and he prepares the new tools to tackle the coming problems. So the power of imagination by people is very important. It's very important. So I think the philosophy is very important in our era. The philosophy, the capacity to imagine, the capacity to thinking logically, ethically, and aesthetically can stimulate the people enthusiasm, the people attractions toward our new ideas. Yeah, our new ideas presenting problem. So the imagination, I think that's very important. That's why the philosophy, is very important for us. And on the other hand, most of the people thinking that I remember one of the most advanced AI corporations in London, DeepMind, is established by computer scientists, neuroscientists, and the philosopher. Because they know very well. Mustafa Sulaiman, the philosopher from Oxford, and computer scientist Hadimis Hassabis from UCL and Cambridge, they create the deep mind that can beat Go, the Chinese chess game that can beat the Go, because they can create the AI that think creatively. So when the AI become creative, so people, human beings should be imaginative. We have to one step ahead of AI. If the AI already creative, human beings should be imaginative. So one step ahead. If you're only creative, you're nobody. But if you're imaginative, I think the thing that our human being can be proud of, when they are imaginative, right? So I know my answer cannot solve the problem, but this is the big picture that I want to present.
Now I'd like to go to the next question from Daniel Alice in Cameroon. Hi, Daniel. So Daniel is saying that the COVID-19 pandemic has shown us how important we should leverage AI, since you talked about AI earlier, how important it is to leverage AI to solve many issues. Now the question is, why are governments not ready to harness their sovereignty by investing in AI programs? We've seen that the majority of the AI investments are mostly coming from private incubators or private institutions, right? So what do you think? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, regretfully, I have to say that because I failed to my candidacy in the third term in parliament, but actually in 2009 I proposed the new law as my campaign materials to propose the new law. After the village law in 2009, I actually campaigned for the new law, what I call the big data and 4.0 governance law. And precisely in 2018 and 2019, I campaigned that if a country or Indonesia facing the threat of war or nationwide natural disaster, as well as pandemic, we leave to AI to decide the regulation of budget, not leave it to the human being politicians in the parliament. At least in those cases when the country being attacked, when the country facing the nationwide natural disaster, as well as when the country facing the pandemic, 2018 and 2019. I campaign for that. I'm not Oracle Delphi, but I'm trying to envisioning this is the problem that we will face. So we have to leave it to AI, reducing the role by the human being, politicians in the legislative. But I think we are facing this problem. And actually, after being inaugurated in the second term, President Jokowi actually already made a proposal to change or to replace the second and third echelons of department by AI. Yeah, in the first weeks after being inaugurated as the president in the second term, actually President Jokowi already proposed that. But there's some reactions against this agenda, against this issue, against this proposal, and unfortunately, Pak Jokowi stepped back, not continuing his proposal. But I think it's not too late for us. I think we have to use or maximize this momentum, suffering from pandemic COVID-19, for us as a nation, to encourage state to create state-owned companies, for example, to harness, to drive the AI or machine learning or whatever you may call it, technological innovation run by state-owned company or state-owned body. I think this is very important. It's maybe a bit too late, but it's okay. We have plenty of time because our new norm is infinite, right? So a lot of things will happen. Yes. Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Mas Budiman. I think it's time for us to wrap up. But before we go, I have a couple of announcements to make. For next week's webinar on Wednesday, June the 10th, we're going to have Peter Christoph from Hungary, the Chief Innovation Officer at Your Anastomosis, which is the startup for the healthcare technology. He's also the coach, trainer, and ambassador at OpenExo. EXO stands for Exponential Organization. He's going to take us through the discussion on the exponential transformation for business using 11 key attributes. So if you like to learn about how to take your organizations to be exponential, don't miss this 10X webinar next week. As you can see, we have lined up a fantastic webinars with amazing speakers in the next few weeks. They're all coming from different countries. So stay tuned. You can always look at our website and social media channels. And also, this is something that we are doing on June 26th. The Purpose Challenge is basically a global movement where we're going to have a virtual workshop for everyone. This is for free, by the way. The theme is how to reimagine or how to innovate the future of work for the Middle East. So it's free workshop. It's open for everyone, not only for those who are in Middle East. So even if you're in Asia, Europe, or States, you can always join us. It's a good opportunity for you to team up with the global innovators in this 3-hour life-changing experience and get some mentorship from the global experts. So just look up our website, intihub.com. And also in June, which is actually this month, we're going to launch this virtual or online 10X Sprint, which is the 6-week online and immersive experiential journey to become future-proof innovators, entrepreneurs, or entrepreneurs. So if you want to learn different innovation methodologies or emerging technologies and to actually take your disruptive ideas to become reality, this is a good opportunity for you. So this one is not free, unfortunately. So you're going to hear from us very, very soon. Mas Budiman, so before we close our webinar, do you have any closing message for all of us, very quickly?
Yeah, be imaginative and stay hungry for science and mathematics and philosophy, and share your love with your community. Thank you.
Share your love with the community. I love it. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining this 10X webinar. So stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope to see you in our next webinar. So bye for now.